Hello everyone, welcome to Voice of Russia for you, and today I'm going to continue my story about the life in the former Soviet Union. This time I decided to tell you about how propaganda in the Soviet Union worked. Propaganda was the primary method of mind control in our former country. But I would like to start out with a few words about the process of upbringing that was implemented in the Soviet Union. So children from the early days were supposed to listen to the stories and read the books about the Great October Socialist Revolution that had overthrown the oppressive government and given freedom to our labor class. During their further course of life, the process of upbringing was thoroughly imbued with a communist ideology. We had to remember that in the first place was put the interest of society, and in the last place was put the interest of our own. So readiness to sacrifice your own life for the benefit of others, for the benefit of the idea, for the benefit of the future generations, if you want, was considered to be a mandatory duty. And there were a lot of movies and a lot of books teaching us how to live this way. Well, speaking about the propaganda in terms of media, I can say that there were a lot of different TV programs depicting how good life in the Soviet Union was and how bad it was in other countries. As far as I remember, the main program was called Time, and it was on each evening at 9 o'clock. The first part of the program consisted of some reports about the best achievements of Soviet people, such as the highest yield of crops, growth of production in different industries, development of the best weaponry aimed to protect Soviet people from any aggressive attempt of imperialists that was to disturb our peaceful existence. In the second part of the program, one could see reports about the severity of lives of labor class in the Western countries. For example, in these sequences, one could see long lines of jobless in front of labor exchanges, demonstrations being scattered by the police with the use of rubber clubs, water hoses, tear gas, as well as numerous homeless people sleeping on benches covered with newspapers, sleeping in some cardboard boxes, and something like that. Sometimes closer to the end of the program, there were some reports about the invasion of NATO forces to some small countries seeking their independence and stuff like that. And sometimes at the end of the program, one could see some speeches of different representatives of some, for example, African or other emerging countries or low-rated countries. Mostly they were black people who spoke Russian with a very thick accent, and their speeches were about how close they want to be to our country, about their relationships, how respectful they are to the Soviet Union, and stuff like that. So this the speeches were, as I understand it, the speeches were to show how eager these countries were to set up good relationships with the Soviet Union, because as I understand it, Soviet Union was always ready to provide certain support to these countries. So, well, after all that, you can understand how well our minds were washed. For example, of course, it's hard for me to say something about adults, but I remember very well, as I, being a child, was sitting in my apartment by the window and feeling some sort of fear. I was thinking to myself, for what merit was I deserved to be born in the only country in the world where people can be happy? I thought to myself, what if I had been born in some other countries? My parents would have been poor and jobless. I wouldn't have had toys. I wouldn't have had ability to go to school and receive medical assistance, free medical assistance. So I really felt kind of fear thinking about all this. So, and taking all this into account, you can also realize how strong the impact on our minds was after we had to face absolutely different reality after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So, stay with me, and next time I'll tell you more interesting stories about the former Soviet Union. Take care.